Hi, good morning, Donna. It's Carolyn for So Here's What Happened podcast and Carolyn Talks. One thing I really find interesting about documentaries is how documentarians and the researchers are able to bring multiple storylines together and center all of them around one topic. Like for this one, it's the Tulsa massacre, but you bring in other events that took place not only during the Red Summer but before and after. Like for instance, the LA riots. So could you just tell me a bit about including those specific events and I guess you could say extrapolating the events and how everything kind of coalesces, and because it talks about racism, but it also does talk about how these things do affect the people that grew up in these communities. Like one of the people in the film says, like the ground is drenched in trauma. Like there's that trauma, but also for you as a filmmaker, just exploring all of this and protecting yourself emotionally and mentally while doing all of this research.
Um, Usually I'm able to, so one thing I want to say about this project is while, first of all, I think the context was super important to understand. We only covered five of the massacres. There were more than 25 in the Red Summer. Some people think there were more than 50. So the historians are disagreed on that. And I think once you pull that back and think there was a targeted campaign of violence against Black people in this concentrated period. And that's important to understand. Tulsa was not an anomaly. It was part of a series of events that was literally targeted to destroy Black people's progress and to basically keep them enslaved. I mean, that's what we're talking about. So you can't understand that if you only know the Tulsa story. You also have to start to look at the other stories. But then the flip side of that, for this particular project, what I came away with was this sense of relief and pride. Because if you think of what people had accomplished, what Black people had accomplished between slavery and the time of the massacres, which is 17. Actually, some of them happened as early as 1907. So from 1865 to 1917, there was so much progress that white people were afraid and had to have this massive pushback. We are seeing that cycle again. We are in another step of progress for people. Although we have so many people struggling, we also have many more people succeeding. And you see that massive pushback once again. You see it in voting rights, trying to disenfranchise Black people. You see it in affirmative action attacks, trying to cut off educational opportunities. You see it. And so getting that big picture is so important for us. We can't attack an enemy we can't really see or understand. And so that's why I think like that context is important. But the other piece of that I came away with is look at what people accomplished in those few decades. To come from not being able to like read or write legally, let alone move, to going to, and not just the people who were very wealthy. There's always going to be a few outliers who are very, very wealthy. The majority of people in Tulsa and Elaine and all the other cities were not very wealthy people, but they were successful. They were successful in they had intact families, they had churches, they had schools, they had joy, they had leisure time. Leisure time is a measure of success because you don't always have to work just to keep yourself alive. And the idea that that success of just having a comfortable, calm life is too challenging to white supremacy, that to me is very interesting. So, but I did come away with such a sense of pride in the resilience and success, creativity of all of these people. So I really focused on that and thinking we have to flip the narrative. The narrative is we were attacked not because we're weak, we were attacked because we were strong. And if you think about that, it just makes you feel like that's who I come from. That's my history. So I hope that this will also be empowering for Black people.
Oh, for sure. Thank you so much for doing for putting yourself in the position and make yourself vulnerable to explore all of this story.